So the big question is this: how are millennials like you and I, who refuse to accept the American dream template that the schools and parents have tried to hand down to us, but looking to escape the rat race? How do we shift our mindset in life to reach success and find our happiness? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brandon Stover, and I'm an entrepreneur who is going from zero to success and sharing every one of my secrets along the way in order to inspire you to defy your odds. Welcome to the Hustle and Happiness Podcast. Everybody, welcome to the Hustle and Happiness Podcast. On today's show, I have a man who is on a mission to show his fellow millennial everything they were never taught about the most taboo topic in our day and age, and that's money. Even after getting an international business degree, working in taxes for over a year, running a successful sneaker business, and working in sales since he was 16, he quickly found out how little he knew about money and realized that everyone is even more ill-equipped to know what to do with theirs. So with his no bullshit, nothing held back approach, he's teaching people in their 20s about the shit we should have learned about money management, taxes, or what the hell a 401k really is. So let me introduce someone who believes so much in not keeping his generation financially illiterate. He quit his job at one of the top finance firms in the nation because they told him to quit making his highly valuable and highly truthful videos about money and millennials. So let me introduce Alex Hartsuff on the Hustle and Happiness Podcast. What's up, Alex? How are you today?
Hey, Brandon. How are you? Thanks for that intro. That was great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
glad to be here,
man. So give me a little bit about your backstory. And you just were at a 9-to-5, but just quit. And tell me about how you're jumping into entrepreneurship right now.
Sure. So like you said, I do have an international business degree from University of Memphis, Go Tigers. And I've got about 10 years of experience in multiple styles of sales and business, worked in a variety of environments, both brick and mortar and in the virtual world of online sales. I've held several leadership positions in very lucrative corporate roles, selling both services and products. I've been the head of sales departments in both retail and e-commerce brands. And like you said about the sneaker company, I was part of a very successful online startup. Really started as a grassroots effort. It was me and my buddy, my best friend. We were just traveling around the country promoting the brand, but really took off because of social media and online marketing. You know that old saying, 80% of your success comes from what you spend 20% of your time on. Well, we figured out for us that was social media. So we just ran with it as hard as we could and eventually got to the point where we had over 1 million followers and we're generating over $25,000 a month in revenue. So I've been a quote unquote entrepreneur for a long time now, about roughly 10 years. And I've always had a passion for building people and businesses.
Dude, that's awesome. It's really great to see somebody like doing so many different things and then, finding their lane and basically just double downing on that to really blow themselves up,
Yeah, it took a while to figure out what we were going to do, but we've got that figured out now.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me why you think that as millennials in our generation, why we're so undereducated about money and taxes and everything else around that world.
Well, I think there's a multitude of reasons, really. One really big one is I think there's a big generational divide between Gen X, which is our parents, and millennials. When our parents were growing up, they were taught by their schools, their parents, how to do simple financial tasks, right? Like balance a checkbook, where you write out all the money you had coming in for the month, then write out all the money you spent. Well, our parents never taught us how to do that kind of stuff because we've always had technology around to do it for us. They were under the assumption that we don't need to know how to balance a checkbook because our bank just keeps up with the statements, which is true. There are tons of computer programs that will tell you exactly how much money you make and spend, and you don't have to keep track of it. But knowing how much money you're spending and a computer telling you, hey, you spent X amount of dollars doesn't really help you if you don't know how much money you're supposed to spend. Right. It's good to have computer programs, but the consumer needs to understand what's going into that. So I think the first reason is definitely an assumption that technology would take care of that for us. But I think really the biggest reason, probably the number one reason, is because of the way the financial system is set up. The financial industry does not benefit from teaching you how to manage your money. If they teach you how to manage your money, you won't go to them to pay them to tell them how to manage your money. It's like, why did they not teach you how to do your taxes in school? So you pay an accountant. Right. Why did they not teach you anything about investments? So you'll pay a Wall Street banker. Why did they not teach you anything about student loans? Because they rack up on interest, which they also didn't teach you what interest means. So, it's the way the system is set up is such that, big corporations make billions and probably trillions of dollars off our ignorance. So why change that, right? And, they're really clever about it, because they'll be like, hey, we got this 401k plan for you and it's awesome. And that's true. 401k plans are really good, but they don't tell you about the 2 to 6% taxes. The 2 to 6% fees that are in every account. That's not listed in your 401k brochure when you start working at a place. So they love to hide stuff in the details. So just the industry itself is set up in such a way that financial professionals are incentivized to make sure the consumer doesn't know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It was amazing. My wife and I just bought our first house about 6 months ago. And it was amazing, like when we were going through the process of how little that we knew about every step of the way. And luckily, our loan officer was actually a college roommate of ours. And so he was young like us and basically was in the same position that already knew that we were ill-equipped to understand all this stuff. So I could easily go to him and basically ask him like every step of the way, like, hey, I don't get any of this shit. Like, explain it to me, because to me, it's just foreign and I didn't, learn any of this stuff. And so I think it's really great having, someone like you and other people like you that have this knowledge, but are our generation and are willing to explain it to us in a way that we'll understand, because our parents or any of the financial institutions, they don't lay it out in front of us like they should have, so that we were equipped to go forward.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you couldn't be more right about that. And for when they do try to explain stuff to you, they use really big words that no one outside of finance ever uses or will ever understand. And then they have 5 different words that all mean the same thing. So it's just, it's a great BS system that they can keep people down. And, that's what I'm here for, to cut through all that BS.
Yeah, absolutely. So why are you so passionate about finance? I mean, like, were you passionate about it as you were growing up, or is this something that just came up later? You're like, I just want to make some money, so I need to understand it.
That's a good question there. Really, my passion came from when I started working in personal finance myself. I'm a big believer that money cannot buy happiness, but if you spend all your time worried about your money, you're going to be miserable, right? So when I started working in finance, with an international business degree and 10 years of sales and business experience, I figured I would have a pretty good handle on personal finances, but boy, was I wrong. I realized almost immediately on day one how little I had been exposed to these concepts in both my education and experience. So I just became obsessed with learning everything I could. And one of the biggest realizations I had early on was how important early financial planning is, how big of an impact doing things young has for the rest of your life, or not doing things young, what a negative impact that can have. These choices that we make in our 20s, while, we all think, hey, I'm young, I got plenty of time. Yes, that's true. But from a financial sense, if you understand compounding interest, every day, every year really does matter. So that's part of why I'm so passionate about teaching young people specifically. So as I got into personal finance and as I'm studying and as I'm working with clients, I started making these financial education videos, really as a way for my friends to learn this stuff, because I knew that they didn't know, because I didn't know. Yeah. I knew they didn't know. And I knew that they were not going to read the articles I was sharing called 12 things people in their 20s need to do to save money, right? Nobody's going to take the time to read that, especially when everyone is ADHD as hell in this generation. So, I figured if I make videos, maybe they'll watch it, maybe even just to make fun of me at first. That's cool. If you learn something, talk all the shit you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I start making these videos, and what happened really, really quickly was I started getting questions left and right from people I'd never met before. Like people from South Africa and Pakistan and, and even crazy places like Indiana. Right. So, I quickly realized that I was not alone, and my passion really got a shot of adrenaline when I figured out just how far we have to go on this subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really like your videos on Instagram and on Facebook, because you try and condense all that crap down into a minute because you got two for Instagram. But
yeah, trust me, it's not easy.
Yeah, exactly. But having that quick shot is just, even if you can't explain it in depth, all of a sudden you're bringing awareness, and that's half the battle, is just bringing people aware that, oh, hey, you probably do have a 401k at your employer, or, oh, hey, you're not getting as good as benefits as, say, if you were to open your own IRA or something. And just bringing that awareness up forward really opens their eyes, and then they can start looking at that stuff for themselves, or message you or whatever, really start getting into it.
Yep, that's really what I'm about, because I know that, again, finance articles are so boring. Are you kidding me? I love finance. I do this every day. I have to fight to sleep every time I open one of these 500-page books.
Yeah.
So, completely understandable.
Yeah. So tell me about when you were growing up, what the mindset of money was in your household. So I know when I was growing up, we were I had a single mom, and it was basically a scarcity mindset, and really save every penny that you can, and we're not going to overspend or anything like that. And so as I was growing up, I had to start transforming my mindset about money and not seeing it as such a scarce thing. Otherwise, I would just be protecting it all the time,
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. So mine was a little bit different. In my family growing up, the mindset behind money was spend, 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 and there will always be more to come wherever it comes from. I, growing up, really had no idea where the money was come from. Just that it was always there. My parents never talked about money. If we had struggles, they absolutely were not going to tell me. I think in a lot of ways, I'm a pretty common story of our generation, in that my parents got divorced when I was really young. And so I lived with my mom by herself for a long time. And so, I think I'm very common in that she was working really, really hard to give me whatever I wanted out of guilt, because of the divorce. Obviously, I'm 6 years old, and my parents get divorced, and my mom is the sweetest lady in the world, feels really bad, and she's looking for a way to remedy that. And in her mind, the quickest way to do that was spending money on me. Yeah. And the only real big change I saw when my parents got divorced are, now I've got two Christmases, right? So I think that has a lot to do with, I think our generation is very very quick to spend money when they shouldn't. Yeah. Just because I think money is a very quick fix for bad emotions, but it is certainly not a permanent fix. And so, since that's how I was growing up, definitely in my later teenage, early 20 years, I had the same mindset. And, working really hard and having these successful businesses is awesome, but not if you don't have anything to show for it, because you blow all your money, because that's just how you were raised. And so, I didn't appreciate and understand the hard work that my parents were putting in on the front end of the side when I was growing up. But now that I'm older and have a much more mature relationship, both with my parents and money, I really understand and appreciate what they were doing. And although I was very, very fortunate, I could not have been more blessed growing up. I didn't have money issues, but I really understand the impact for the people who are not as fortunate as I am.
Yeah, I think there's something there, especially with our generation and then our parents. I feel like there was some sort of generational gap that happened. Because if you think back to like our grandparents, they were in the, either in wars or the Industrial Revolution or, something like that. And then having to have that idea of hard work all the time, and basically taking that hard work, and you were able to buy nice things, but never forget how much work you had to put into it. And then there was this generation after that, which was our parents, and they had to kind of fix what the generation before them did. And so they had this weird thing where like they knew how to save money and they knew about doing hard work, but they didn't know how to transfer those skills. And like we were talking earlier, when it got to us, we just seen our parents trying to give nice lives to us and not necessarily share. I know like growing up, I didn't know exactly much about the finances going on in the household. That wasn't really a thing. And so stuff was paid for. Some months were better than others, but I didn't know what was going on. And so when it came to do that stuff for myself, like I had to figure it out all on my own and have, that ethic put into me.
Absolutely. I think you're totally right. You're hitting the nail on the head with that one. And I think another element of that is that our parents' generation at the time was the wealthiest generation that had ever lived. And, scarcity had been a really big problem for the majority of human existence up until the, mid to late 1900s. And all these people have all this money now and they're having all these kids. And they're like, well, we have all this extra money. Let's spend it on the kids. Yeah. And, that spending mindset really got transferred to a lot of millennials.
Absolutely. So what do you think are some like good habits and mindset shifts for our generation to learn now that we all are making money or trying to save it or whatever? What do you think we have to learn the most?
Sure. I think the single most important thing you need to incorporate into your life to change your mindset and your actions regarding money is starting with the end in mind. And what I mean by that is you need to have a specific tangible goal that you're working towards with your money. You need to know what it is you want to do with your money, more so than I want to have a bunch of it. You need to know like, okay, I want to buy this specific car, this specific house. I want to retire with this much money. You need to know exactly what you need to have, because if you don't have a specific goal, A, you have no idea what you need to be doing in order to reach the area you want to be in, and B, your mindset's going to be messed up because you're constantly unsure of yourself. You have no idea how close or how far you are to what it is that you want. So if you don't know what it is that you want, you'll never get there. You'll never be in a good mindset about it. And I've got a good example of that. I had a friend of a friend who I had met one time called me one day and he said, "Hey, I've been watching your videos for a while. I really need help with my money. Can we meet tonight?" And, I could sense some urgency in his voice. So I moved some stuff around. And, that's weird because normally people don't want to meet with a financial advisor that second. Right. So move some stuff around, meet with him that night. And he tells me that his girlfriend is 2 weeks pregnant and he just found out. So he's freaking out, understandably. He tells me that he has not told anybody. He didn't call his family. He didn't call his friends. He said I was the first person he called because he's like, I have no idea what I need to do to be financially able to support a child.
Right.
But I know that that's his thing. He wants to be the father that provides for his family. And so, we're talking through the conversation, and obviously the kid's in a really bad mindset, right? Granted, the guy's 21 years old. Found out his girlfriend's 2 weeks pregnant, right? Obviously, understandably freaking out.
Yeah.
And so, I would be shit.
Yeah.
So, we're talking through the conversation, and I find one of his pain points is that he wants to be able to buy a house for his family to grow in, which, is a completely understandable goal for a guy to have for his family. And so we go through his budget and we're drilling down on his finances, and we figure out, okay, he can afford a $150,000 home. Not that day, obviously, but
right.
Due to his income, that's what he could afford. So $150,000 home, need a 20% down payment. He needs $30,000 in his bank account in order for him to buy that home. So what's been wild, what has just been amazing to me is the complete shift in this guy's mindset and his actions around it. Like he'll text me like, hey man, I showed him how to do some side hustling, some flipping stuff on eBay, right?
Yeah.
And so he was texting me like, yeah man, just got another flip off eBay, made 250, we're up to 11,000. And so it's just like, it's really wild to me to see how different everything is, because now that he has this tangible goal, he has this specific goal of $30,000 that he knows he needs to get, and he knows why he needs to get it. So all of his actions are all pointing towards getting that goal. Everything he does is going towards that. And so he, not only that, but his mindset is better because he sees himself actively making progress towards the goal. And that's the key to happiness in any aspect of life, but especially finances. Pick a goal, work your ass off to get there. And when you see yourself making positive progression, you will feel happy. If you want to change your mindsets and your actions, you need a specific goal, a plan, and execution. And remember that a plan and execution are just as important as a goal, because a plan or a goal without a plan and execution is just a dream. So understand that you need to know exactly, specifically what you want to know with your money. And when you have complete clarity around what it is that you want out of your life, you will be amazed at the lengths that you are willing and able to go in order to reach it.
Yeah, dude, that's huge. I think a lot of people, they throw up like a number of how much money they want, or the famous one is like, I want to make $1 million. And it's like, well, what would you actually do with that $1 million? Like, do you know what you would want with that $1 million? Because a lot of times, like, $1 million is just a number, right? And so if you're just, looking at a number and have a number in mind, but you don't know physically what you want out of that, if it's to, buy a house or take care of your family, or you want a new car, or like you start, start listing out like on a piece of paper, like what you actually want from that, because those are going to be more powerful when you are in the shit trying to hustle and do this stuff. And, like, this sucks, or this is boring, or whatever. If you look at the actual list, like, oh, if I actually go through this, I'm going to get this stuff. I'm going to be able to provide for my family. I'm going to be able to do this and do that. And once you actually have that, like, in your head, in the back there, it's not just some esoteric number that's floating around now.
Yep, you couldn't be more right. Like, go back to the example of this guy trying to get a house for his family. If I told him, hey, you need to save $30,000, and he's going through all this shit trying to flip everything, like, and it's really tough, and he's just getting $30,000 for the sake of getting $30,000, do you think he's going to keep it that for a while? No, but the goal is not $30,000. The goal is a home for his family, right? Yeah. So that's why he's willing to do whatever it takes.
Absolutely. So tell me what you think for the people that are just starting out, they're still sitting in their 9 to 5, and basically working for those older generations, lockdown. What do you think is the one mindset shift that they have to take in order to take that jump start as an entrepreneur like you did?
So it was interesting. I was discussing this question with my mentors, and we had a very long debate going back and forth between courage and self-awareness. Being an entrepreneur takes balls. Taking the leap to leave a secure 9 to 5 income, it takes courage. Like, you have to have faith that whatever you're doing will actually work. Because if you're not willing to take that leap, then you'll never get anything. I've heard an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down, right? Yeah. And I think that's so true. But you got to remember that having faith and having courage is not enough, not at all. You need to be very self-aware. You need to take a very honest look at yourself and who and where you are right now. And you may have to accept the fact that it might not be the right time for you to make that leap. But if you know that, if you're extremely self-aware and you know where you are and you know what you need to do in order to make that leap, you can plan for that. So that way, when the time comes and you are ready to make that leap, you can walk out of your 9 to 5, jump off that cliff, and build your plane.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things is people, when they're looking at themselves and basically taking that inventory of what they need to do in order to take that leap. I think that, like, the biggest difference between, say, us and Elon Musk or, Jeff Bezos or something is just a set of skills that they've built over time. They started somewhere just like we did, and we have to build up those same skills. And so when you start taking that inventory, you have to look at each of those skills and say, okay, this is what I need to learn how to do. This is what I need to figure out. And eventually you'll be ready to take that leap. And, you'll still have to build the airplane on the way down, but it's not going to be as hard.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe a third one is patience on top of that.
Yeah,
They say
absolutely.
the journey of a million miles begins with a single step, right?
Yeah, and I think what's the rule is you got to put in your 10,000 hours basically.
To be an expert at anything.
Yep. So, I mean, I think people see the fast money and they're like, oh, I want to do that overnight too, but really behind any of that is 10,000 hours that they had to go through the bullshit to basically get there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why Bitcoin's so popular. It's a lottery ticket.
Yeah, exactly. So what are your plans moving forward, and what's your mission with your new ventures?
Sure. So the mission moving forward is to create and deliver easily understandable digital financial literacy content so that we can empower millennials to make conscious financial decisions and live the life that they want to live. Really, my mission is to teach financial strategy to as many millennials as possible. And I want to do that in a way that they actually want to learn it and can actually understand it. And I really place heavy emphasis on the second half of that sentence. I think it's super important to reach millennials at their level and not preach at them and force them to try to conform to educational styles that they frankly just hate. And that goes back to why we're undereducated. Finance is intentionally extremely boring and difficult so that millennials understandably give up and say, screw it, I'm going to pay you to tell me what to do. So, that's just how the system is designed. And the end goal for me is to cut through this bullshit and, this bullshit industry that the finance world has created. And, it really keeps us trapped and heavily benefits those on the inside. And we're going to do that by teaching this generation, the future leaders of the world, such self-sufficient financial skills that they can take control of their own financial picture, plan and strategize for the future, and ultimately reach a point where my financial planning services are no longer needed. I would love nothing more than to reach enough millennials to where my job becomes obsolete.
Dude, that is so awesome. Just the fact that you want to make it so that your job is unnecessary, that you're completely out of the picture. Like that's true.
Well, then I can take a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. That's truly just like what it's about, and really helping each other as a generation. And I think it's awesome that you want to teach them in a way that's already meeting them where they're at, instead of school like trying to shove shit down our throat.
Oh, really, so right.
Yeah, because I mean, when we were in school, half the time you didn't pay attention because it was taught to you in a way that didn't connect with you, wasn't actually teaching you anything. Rather,
and also they were teaching us shit we're never going to need to know. When's the last time you used the Pythagorean fucking theorem?
Yeah. Exactly.
Ridiculous.
So I think that's totally awesome. And tell everybody where they can find you online so they can.
Sure. So you can check me out, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the normal social media pages, just at Alex Hartsuff. It's spelled HARTSUFF. I encourage everybody to reach out, send questions. There is no stupid question. If you have a question, that means someone else somewhere certainly has it. I probably had it on my first day of working in finance. So, I'd love to see you guys there. Where I'd really love to see you is my webinar I'm hosting on November 1st, shameless self-plug. It's called How to Manage Your Money Without Getting Ripped Off by a Financial Advisor. So I'm going to be selling the course for $150, but right now I'm letting anybody have free access who shoots me a question about money management. So just slide right in my DMs and we will get that invite over to you.
Awesome, Alex. Well, guys, I would hop on that. I mean, this guy knows what he's talking about with money, and a lot of us struggled growing up. We don't know what we're doing now that we're adults and we got money coming in from our jobs, or trying to make investments, or trying to save, or just trying to put gas into the gas tank of our car. So basically, check out Alex's stuff. He's a super cool guy, and we will see you all on the next episode.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the behind-the-scenes look at our entrepreneur's journey. If you want to get more secrets to becoming an entrepreneur and pursuing your happiness, then visit www.hustleandhappiness.com. Join us again next time, and remember, you are just one decision away from your happiness.